Hello, I'm Kevin Spradlin from the Cumberland Times-News, and today I'm here with Elizabeth Stahlman, who chairs the Allegany County Local Complete Count Committee. Ms. Stahlman is joined by committee member Reverend Alfred Deas Jr. of Metropolitan A.M.E. Church in Cumberland. Elizabeth, could you please tell us what the role of the Complete Count Committee is and what community groups are represented within its membership?
The role of the Allegany County Complete Count Committee is to increase awareness of the upcoming 2010 census and ultimately increase the mailback response rate of the census questionnaire and increase that rate above 66% from 2000. And we have several groups from the community represented. We have the faith-based community, Pastor Deas here, and we also have the Board of Education, several of the large employers in the county, governments, the Chamber of Commerce, and some of the prisons are represented as well.
Pastor Deas, what has been your role with working with the Complete Count Committee so far?
Well, it's been a lot of fun and working to making sure that this 2010 census gets elevated as an issue of importance within the faith-based community. We believe, of course, we can reach a lot of the people here that will be affected by this 2010 census. So we wanted to make sure that every church within the Cumberland and Allegany County area received notice that the 2010 census was coming. It's very important, and to prepare the people for it so that they will be ready to receive that notification and be willing and ready to send it back on time for April the 1st.
Elizabeth, Pastor Deas mentioned that it's important to fill out the census form. Why is completing the census form so important to Allegany County?
There's so many reasons. Number one is funding. They say between the years 2010 and 2020, over $400 billion of federal funds will be allocated each year depending on the census population numbers. This money goes to things like Title I educational grants, USDA, rural wastewater loans, things like that, transportation, Head Start, senior services. There's just, everyone is affected by how this funding is distributed. It also is used by businesses and planners to determine current populations, demographic studies, and also how to plan for the future using these numbers. And another thing that's really important to our region is that the population counts are used for legislative redistricting. So we want to ensure that Allegany County is counted as accurately as possible so that we're appropriately represented in Congress.
What are the goals for the committee for this census period?
Like I said, we're trying to increase the mailback response rate. In 2000, that was 66%. For every questionnaire that's not completed, it costs the Census Bureau, and therefore our tax dollars, I think $60 to $85 for an enumerator to go out to that household. So by people filling out their questionnaire, they're saving the government and ultimately themselves money. And it saves time, and it produces a more accurate count by just completing that questionnaire. They say it will only take 10 minutes. It's very simple. There's no invasive questions, and then mailing it back.
Pastor Deas, what major obstacles do you and your fellow committee members believe you'll face in achieving these goals of increasing participation?
Well, one thing I think that we've minimized, I think, the problems that we may have had maybe in years before, because I think the committee run ably by Sister Elizabeth and the various participations, we are able to brainstorm and come up with things and methods by which we could get the word out, allow the people to know that it's not something that is that's something they should avoid or be suspicious of. And if we can do that, then when they receive it in the mail, we believe that they'll be willing now to send it back. One of the greatest suggestions came very recently in one of our meetings, in that one member suggested to encourage the children to ask their parents, "Mama, have I been counted yet? Daddy, have I been counted yet?" So that we can get the whole family involved in making sure they know it's important, and we reduce their hesitancy in sending the forms back.
Mm-hmm. Elizabeth, when will the census forms be arriving in local mailboxes?
They can expect the actual questionnaire to come middle of March. They should be getting a reminder letter notice this week, early March, and then the questionnaire will come mid-March.
What will happen if a household does not return their census form by a certain date. Provide us some details on that process once the forms are received.
Yes. If you don't complete your first questionnaire, they may mail you a second questionnaire, and if you do not complete that one, that is when the census enumerator will come to your door with a laptop and official Census Bureau badge and ask you to sit down with them and complete the questionnaire right then and there. So that's what people can expect. If they don't fill out the questionnaire, a U.S. Census Bureau employee will be coming to their door.
Pastor Deas, Allegany County has a number of senior residents and others who may have questions on the process of filling out the form. Are there locations where people can obtain forms if they don't receive them in the mail or get assistance with filling out those forms?
Well, that's one reason why the faith-based community is involved, as well as for my church. My own church will actually serve as a point of reference and a contact point to assist those that may have questions. We wanted to make sure that we started the announcement of the upcoming census early enough so that as we now begin to set up some of those points of where we can get the questions answered, after a particular service, if a faith-based organization would like to have it located in their facility, then they could assist the senior citizens here in calming their fears or answering their questions so that they will be ready to go ahead and respond back.
Elizabeth, what other locations might there be available in Allegany County that are determined now already to help citizens with filling out those forms?
I think all of the public libraries have been determined to be questionnaire assistance centers. And then right here in Frostburg, the City Hall and the government building will both serve as questionnaire assistance centers at predetermined times on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And those questionnaire assistance centers are scheduled to be open between March 19th and April 19th. And if for any reason someone doesn't get a census questionnaire and feels that they should, they can also visit these questionnaire assistance centers.
There always seems to be some reluctance from people who don't want to fill out another government form. First you, Elizabeth, and then Pastor Deas, and with your different perspectives, address what, if any, steps have been taken to both reduce a person's time and inconvenience and reluctance to fill out these forms?
Okay. The census is a constitutional mandate, and in 2000, some people might recall that most of the population got a short form, but some people got a long form, and these had lots and lots of questions and very specific things about your home, your career, and things like that. And I think in 2010, the Census Bureau realized that maybe numbers were down in 2000 because these questions were delving in a little too deep maybe for some people. So being a constitutional mandate to count the number of people in the United States on a specific day, which is April 1st of 2010, they're only asking 10 questions, and they expect it to only take 10 minutes to complete. And the questions are very simple. They're nothing about, income or things like that. They're very straightforward. And all of the information that you submit is protected by Title 13 of U.S. Code, and that personal data is kept confidential for 72 years, and then it is released to do genealogical studies.
Pastor Deas, the same question, if you will, from your perspective, what message are you, how are you distributing the message to people you correspond with and encouraging them to fill out the census form?
Well, reminding them of the times that we're living in, which shows that it's so important to have a voice in your government. As the economy has made a downturn, the ability to receive and have available health care and various monies for your community are dependent upon the amount of people that are there. Monies go where the people are. And so if we can encourage our people to know that your presence counts, and the only way that your presence can count is for you to let them know that you are present, it also benefits you when it's time here for the county to receive funds. So just let them know that it's a personal thing, and that truly, again, mentioning the children, make sure that you make your children count, because they will be depending upon some of the funding that will be allocated to Allegany County based upon the count that we have here.
Elizabeth, is there anything else you'd like to say to viewers today about the upcoming census?
No, just don't forget to fill out your questionnaire. It'll make a difference in your community.
Pastor Deas?
Saying the same thing. Don't be afraid. Take your stand and be counted, and let your counting be worth some funding to Allegany County.
Okay, thank you, Elizabeth and Pastor Deas, for joining us today. I'm Kevin Spradlin from the Cumberland Times-News. Have a good evening, and please remember to fill out your 2010 census form when it arrives.